If you've ever had a baby while also trying to run a household, you probably know that homemaking with a newborn looks a little different, but that doesn't mean it has to fall apart. In this video, I'm sharing the routines that help me feel a little more on top of things postpartum. I'll talk about how I manage laundry, dishes, and cleaning, and I'll also show you two of my go-to meals that are quick to make but still very nourishing. I'll talk about why and how I'm still baking sourdough in this season of life, and share a few tips that might just help you keep your sanity in busy seasons of life. If you're new here, I'm Tina. I share mostly sourdough and homemaking content from my home here in Slovenia. My goal is to inspire you to find joy in simple things and mostly to slow down, while also giving you practical tips that you can actually use in your everyday life. The first thing I need to mention, because it's by far the most important, is postpartum rest. Yes, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's so true. Rest is the main thing to focus on, and I'll be honest, postpartum I tend to fall into that mindset where I'm only thinking about the baby and sometimes forget about myself a little. But when you really think about it, taking care of yourself is taking care of your baby as well. Because if you're not functioning well, if you're not feeling even somewhat okay, your baby will feel that. I truly believe they pick up on our energy, at least they do in my experience. And rest doesn't necessarily mean lying in bed for weeks, unless that's what you want or what you need. It just means moving slowly, giving yourself permission to ease back into things. I've just had my third baby a little over a month ago, and I can tell you, each postpartum season just gets busier. With more children to care for, rest doesn't happen by accident, and we really have to make sure to get enough of it. Speaking of rest, sourdough is actually one of the first things that comes to mind, and not because it's extra work. I feel like sourdough often ends up on that list of things you should stop doing postpartum because it's an extra thing you don't necessarily have to do since there's bread at the store too. But honestly, I think sourdough fits the pace of postpartum beautifully. For me, it was actually something that reminded me to slow down because the process itself is slow. Maybe it's not the right time to start baking sourdough if you've never done it before, but if you already have a go-to loaf that you can throw together in your sleep, it can be comforting to keep that going. And you know how those sourdough instructions always say, let the dough rest for 8 to 12 hours? Well, you should apply that to yourself too. And it feels good to eat the bread you make and know it's quality bread. Your body needs so much nourishment postpartum. And where I live, and in most of Europe, we eat a lot of bread. I always joke we eat bread with bread, so the quality of that bread matters to me a lot. And not all sourdough recipes are complicated. There's definitely a lot of easy ones out there. One thing I rely on during this season or during busy seasons in general, when I don't want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen, is sourdough discard pizza. If you've never tried it, I first saw this method from Lisa at Farmhouse on Boone on YouTube. By the way, you should definitely check her out. She has amazing content. And the method is super simple. You basically pour your sourdough discard into a hot cast iron skillet. After a few minutes, it starts to cook because it's spread really thin, and then you can just pop it right out of the pan. You can then top it with whatever you like, and that's it. It's super easy and such a great way to use up a lot of discard. The easy version is just to top it with some pizza sauce and cheese, but you can do whatever you like on it. Last time I made some chicken breast in an instant pot and shredded it. I baked some sweet potatoes that I needed to use up, and I also had some leftover mozzarella. So we ended up calling it barbecue chicken and sweet potato pizza because we used some barbecue sauce instead of tomato sauce on it. We just thought it will fit better, and it did. I'll link the recipe for you down below. I have it on my blog, stretchandfolds.com, and that's where all the details instructions are. As far as everyday tasks to stay on top of go, laundry is a big one. And instead of complicated systems, what to wash and when, I have just one simple rule, postpartum or not, and it is that one load of laundry gets washed every day. So in the morning, I'll check what needs to be washed most urgently, I'll throw it in the washing machine, and that's it. And that way it becomes a habit, like brushing your teeth or making breakfast. It takes no mental energy, and that's what matters most to me. If you're cloth diapering, you'll likely need to do more. I usually wash diapers every other day, sometimes daily, so I start with those, move them to the dryer, and then start a second load if needed. And since we're talking about cloth diapers, I'll be honest, if you're only planning on one child, I'm not sure they're worth it. They were a learning curve for me, for sure. I got mixed advice, so I bought lots of used ones to see which ones will fit me. And of course, the most expensive ones ended up being my favorites. So I have mostly all in one diapers now. They are convenient, but also very pricey. So I still recommend them, but if you only have one child, it might not be worth the time and cost to learn something you'll only use once. But they are extra cute and very worth the effort once you get the hang of it. Cleaning is another big task we need to check off, but ideally in a way that's efficient and not overwhelming. I don't have a designated cleaning day or schedule, but whenever I find myself with a spare minute, I grab a cleaning cloth and start wiping down whatever surface needs it most. Another thing I've started doing recently is just taking care of something right away if I notice it. Because what used to happen is I'd see a smudge on the wall or a dirty light switch or something, and I would think, oh, I should really clean that. Then I'd walked past it 20 or 30 times that day, thinking the exact same thing every time. But when you add up all the mental energy spent thinking about cleaning it and compare it to the literally 10 seconds it takes just to wipe it down, it's obvious what's easier. So now I try to just grab a cloth and take care of it right away, and it's done. Of course, I'll clean bigger messes as they happen, but for the regular tidying, wiping, and decluttering, just 5 minutes a day when you have time really adds up, and it keeps things from piling up or feeling too chaotic. When it comes to doing the dishes, I find that if I want to go to sleep peacefully, I need to make sure they're taken care of, at least at the end of the day. That's why I always run the dishwasher at night, even if it's not completely full. That way, if there's anything that doesn't fit, I wash it quickly by hand, turn on the dishwasher, and that's it for the day. I actually don't mind unloading it in the morning. It's one of those chores I don't find terrible, and it helps me get going for the day actually. But what I really can't stand is waking up to dirty dishes, and I bet I'm not the only one. So I make sure that everything either goes into the dishwasher or gets washed by hand so that in the morning I start the day only dealing with clean dishes. And last but definitely not least, there's cooking and food prep. It's something that needs to be done every day, and especially postpartum, I try to stick to meals I know well, mainly to save mental energy. Of course, if you feel like trying a new recipe, go for it, but most of the time, I'd recommend sticking to meals you're confident making. Pick ones that don't require a lot of hands on time. Even if they take longer to cook, if you can throw everything in an instant pot and walk away, it still counts as simple. So for me, a simple meal is something I can finish in about 30 to 40 minutes. I like meals where I prep one part while another is cooking and everything just flows nicely, so I can walk into the kitchen and 30 minutes later, lunch or dinner is on the table. One of those meals is the one I'm showing you here. It's sweet and sour chicken with cauliflower and rice. It feels slightly elaborate when you eat it, but it's not hard to make at all. To keep things extra simple, I cook the rice in my instant pot. That's something I've been doing a lot lately. I just love the texture and it's completely hands off. I use a 1-to-1 ratio of rice to liquid. Usually I use water or broth if I have it on hand. And I cook it on high pressure for 4 minutes and then let it naturally release the pressure for 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll toss in frozen peas too, just to sneak in some extra vegetables. And even with the pressurizing time included, the rice is ready in under 20 minutes. While the rice is cooking, I prep the chicken. I like to use frozen diced chicken for this meal. I just thaw it and skip the traditional breading steps. So instead of dipping each piece in an egg, then flour and egg, and then breadcrumbs, I just mix the chicken into beaten eggs, coat them as best as I can, then toss everything into a bowl of flour. It's quicker, and it's messier, but in a good way. That extra coating you make when things are messy crisps up really nicely when you fry the chicken. You can use a store-bought sweet and sour sauce to keep it really simple, or you can make your own. But either way, by the time the rice is done, the chicken and sauce are almost or already done as well. And because the chicken is in small pieces, it cooks quickly. Altogether, this meal usually takes me about 30 minutes, start to finish. This recipe is also on my blog, stretchandfolds.com, and I'll link to it down below in the description box. Pasta is always something I rely on when I need a fast and simple meal. But what I don't love is that a lot of pasta sauces, especially creamy or veggie based ones, tend to be really low in protein. And lately, I've been more intentional about including a good amount of protein in our meals. I've noticed I feel better and my kids don't snack as much when the meals are protein rich. With pasta, that can be tricky, but salmon pasta is a great option. It still feels like you're having creamy pasta, but you can pack a lot of salmon into it. You can definitely use canned salmon, but my favorite method is to fry fresh salmon on a pan, then tear it into small pieces and then add it back in. And while salmon is out of the pan, I usually prepare some garlic and saute it in the oil left from the salmon, sometimes with a bit of extra olive oil. It depends on how oily that salmon is. And for seasoning, I love adding lemon juice, lots of dill, and some heavy cream. I usually water the cream down a bit because otherwise it gets too rich for my taste. While the salmon and sauce are coming together, the pasta boils, and by the time everything's done, you just toss it all together and let it simmer for 5 minutes or so the flavors can combine. The result is a comforting protein and omega-3 rich meal that's especially good for postpartum season since we will need all that nutrition. And if you have smaller kids, this is a great way to serve salmon in my experience because a big fillet on a plate might seem intimidating to them, especially for picky eaters, but mixed into a creamy pasta, they usually eat much more of it, at least mine do. So that's definitely a good trick to keep in mind if you've got picky eaters at home. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos about sourdough baking, food from scratch and natural living. I share new videos every Friday and I'd love to have you back here next week. And take good care of yourself if you're postpartum or in any busy season of life really. You're doing more than enough. Bye!